So what is going on, everyone? This is Fabi here, and I know we haven't talked in a long time, but believe me, it was for a good reason. I finally got my bachelor's degree, and from autumn I'm going to start and study for my master's degree, so I'm still going to be busy. I'm going to be working full-time, but hopefully I'm going to be able to mix in some videos into my schedule, so I'll be able to upload them on my YouTube channel. But today we are here to talk about the iPhone 10 versus the iPhone 5. Now, when you think of the iPhone 5, this little bad boy over here is from 2012, so it's 7 years old at this point, and it's still working really well. Like, I can't believe it's working this well 7 years into its life cycle. It's basically retired at this point. It's used as my secondary cell phone on a SIM card I don't really use, but it's nice to have a backup if my iPhone 10 breaks. This little bad boy will be able to work for me in the meantime, and until I fix my iPhone 10 basically. So first of all, we're going to talk about the design, and you're going to be able to see how these phones look. And a lot of people say that the iPhone 5 and 5S design was the best, the pinnacle of iPhone design. If you ask me, I would say that the iPhone 10 and 10s look better, but the iPhone 5 and the iPhone 5S definitely look better than the iPhone 6, 7, and 8. I didn't really like the design of those. I like the fact that the edges are so I don't know, they're sharp. They don't cut you, but they're sharper than the edges on the new iPhones, and that's a selling point for me. So also the fact that it's really slim. It's got this sort of industrial design that they just haven't made ever since on the newer iPhones. Talking about the iPhone 10, of course, it's got a glass back, which is used for the wireless charging. It's good because you can just put it on the table and it charges wirelessly, whereas the iPhone 5 obviously doesn't have that. What else? Now we don't have a 3.5mm jack anymore, obviously. But other than that, of course, they look similar. They're iPhones. The newer iPhone looks better, as I said. In my opinion, I like the edges because they are reflective, and it gives it a sort of a premium look. But all in all, they're both iPhones, and they have excellent build quality, so you can't really complain about that. Next up, we are going to talk about performance. Now, comparing a 7-year-old phone to a phone that was released in 2017, so 2 years ago, is not really fair, but when you look at the iPhone 5 and the way it runs, you can see yourself using it as a daily driver and not get really frustrated, which is something really impressive if you ask me, because using a phone from 7 years ago means that you paid $600 or however much it was back then, and you'd be able to use it until now without any problems. Maybe a change of battery, but that's all. So looking at the Geekbench scores, obviously the iPhone 10 beats it. There's no way, there's no question about it. But in day-to-day performance, you can see that the iPhone 10 is much faster, but it's not so faster that you would just want to throw your iPhone 5 away. And keep in mind, the iPhone 5 is running iOS 10, and some apps are not on their latest versions because they're not supported on iOS 10 anymore. But you can't really complain again. It's a 7-year-old phone, and it got updates for, I believe, 5 years. So that's really something remarkable and impressive. Now, what I would like to do is try Siri on both of them, because I'm pretty curious if Siri is different or improved on the newer versions of the iPhone. So let's ask Siri something simple for the first thing. How's the weather going to be like tomorrow?
It's going to be hot and sunny tomorrow, with a high of 35 degrees.
Okay, so the voice on the iPhone 10 is definitely much more true to life, whereas the one on the 5 is kind of robot-y. And the iPhone 5 also took like 3 seconds longer to show me the result and to read it back to me. But all in all, the information is about the same. So let's try something a little bit more difficult. Give me directions to the capital of Romania.
Getting directions to Embassy of Romania, Canberra.
Okay, so this is a fail on Siri's part. I asked Siri to give me directions to the capital of Romania, and it gave me directions to the Embassy of Romania in Canberra. So I'm not sure why this happened, but it's the same on both. So, of course, because Siri works via Apple's servers, it's going to mostly return the same sort of things. But obviously, on iOS 12 and on the iPhone 10 and newer iPhones, you have things like Siri shortcuts. So I can ask Siri things like, "Show me departures from TSR Airport."
Here's what I found.
It's on the web.
Okay, well this didn't work, but I have a shortcut set in Flight Radar 24, which is an app which lets you see flights from all around you, and I can basically see all of the departures, the arrivals from my main airport over here in Timișoara, but I don't really know the shortcut anymore or how I can trigger it. So it works if you know the trigger word or the trigger phrase. Talking about the camera, of course the iPhone 10 has dual cameras, so a zoom camera and a normal camera, but to keep this fair, I shot a picture with the main camera on the iPhone 10, so on the non-zoom camera, and the only back camera on the iPhone 5, and you can see that the quality is really better on the iPhone 10 obviously, but again, the iPhone 5 is not that much worse, and you have to keep in mind that the lens has a few scratches. You know, it's a 7-year-old phone, so all in all I think it fared fairly well given the circumstances, and you can see that the colors are much better on the iPhone 10, the dynamic range is better, and all these sort of things, but I can't really complain again, I just can't complain. Lastly, talking about reliability. Now, again, as I said with the performance, it's not fair to compare a 7-year-old phone to a 2-year-old phone, but I have experiences with both of these, negative experiences to say. So with the iPhone 5 back in the day, I had to switch it, or I had to get it replaced through warranty, because the power button was just not working anymore. So it started as a sort of thing where you had to press a little bit harder, then harder, and at a certain point it just wouldn't work anymore. My finger would basically hurt from all of the pressure I was putting on the button. So I got it replaced for free. That wasn't an issue. Obviously Apple has their warranty game absolutely on point, and with the iPhone 10 I dropped it a few months ago on sort of concrete mixed with rocks and stuff like that. It was a castle, so it was a pretty rough fall, to be honest, from about 1.5 meters, maybe almost 2 meters I would say, and cosmetically it didn't suffer any damages, but the Face ID sensors got misaligned, so they weren't calibrated anymore, and Face ID just wouldn't work anymore. I got it replaced again for free by Apple, and it was obviously a blast, because otherwise I couldn't use things like Apple Pay and unlocking my phone with my face. But it's a bummer that the phone didn't have any cosmetic damage, mostly because of the case, but the screen wasn't cracked and Face ID just wasn't working anymore. So obviously it's an internal problem, the fact that the sensors got misaligned so easily, but I'm glad Apple got out of the way and replaced my phone for free, so that's obviously awesome. The battery life on both of these phones is pretty okay. Obviously with the iPhone 5 it doesn't last as long anymore, but if you're willing to replace the battery, it can still last you pretty much a whole day. That's an investment, but if you're gonna be using this phone as a cheap secondary phone, it might just be worth it. All in all, both of these phones are great, but we can't look over the fact that the iPhone 10 has a lot of new features such as Face ID. It has Apple Pay obviously integrated. It also has dual back cameras. It has the new sort of design with the notch and with the OLED display. So all of these features add up to an awesome phone, but the iPhone 5 is still a good basic phone. Now the iPhone 5 obviously doesn't have any sort of intelligent unlock system such as Face ID or Touch ID. Touch ID was introduced later on in the iPhone 5S. It only has a one back camera, it only has a flash, which is not the new sort of intelligent two-color flash or two-tone flash that they have in the newer iPhones. The front camera is okay, but it's not the best. And the screen is small. If you're into small screens, then this is going to be for you, but if you want this as a secondary phone or as a phone that you can give to your child to play some, I don't know, some not so intensive games, this is going to be an awesome deal for you. Now obviously it's not being sold anymore, I think, as a new phone, but you can find it used on the internet fairly cheaply. I think this is under $100 right now everywhere, maybe $50 or something like that. But for me, this is really sort of a piece of history. I'm always going to keep this. I'm never gonna sell it because I like it so much, and with the latest iOS it works great, and obviously they don't release new iOS versions for it, so it's always going to run basically the same for basic functions such as making phone calls and sending texts. As time goes on, applications are not going to be available anymore, or at least newer versions, but it's still perfectly workable right now as a secondary phone, and even as a backup phone if your phone dies for a week, or you have to get it replaced, or you have to get it to warranty or something like that. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully I'm going to be able to see you guys soon in a new video. Stay tuned for more anyways, and peace out. You guys rock.